everyone. Welcome to episode 112 of the Arieknits podcast. My name is Ariel, and this is a video podcast where I talk about all the things that I have been knitting and spinning on for the past week. Today, it is Saturday, April 19th, and I'm really excited that one of the things that I am wearing today is actually a pattern that the pattern release was today. And so I'm really excited to talk about it because I'm wearing it. I can share with you how I feel about it and stuff and get you excited to want to make one for yourself. But before we get into it, just like overall summary of today's episode, I don't have any new cast-ons, but I have some updates on my whips. I have a couple future plan things that I want to talk about, just like new cast-ons that I want to or planning on casting on pretty soon. I have some spinning updates, and I also have a finished sewn garment that I finally finished this week. I really want to get I want to do more sewing this year, and so I feel really happy that I finished this sewn garment that was just like half done for probably like a year. But anyway, let's get right into it now. So what I'm wearing today, I'm actually wearing two knitted objects, but let's talk about the first one, which is the tee that I'm wearing under this cardigan. I'm wearing this cardigan because I'm cold. I'm going to be way too cold to just wear the t-shirt throughout the podcast, but I am wearing the Avenue tee. It is by Tori. This is the test knit that I was just talking about, where the pattern was released today, and I knit the v-neck version. There is also a crew neck version if you're not into v-necks, but I really like this v-neck depth and shape by Tori, and so I'm very, very happy and pleased with the final result and the fit of this. The yarn I use is Explore Knits and Fibers Linen Sock. It is a newer base of hers in the colorway Beet Juice, and I knit size 1, and I use US 4 needles, 3.5 millimeter needles to knit this. And I will take off my cardigan just a little bit so that you can like actually see the tee on me. Let me just do, my arms are still cold, so I will cover that, but here's the tee. You can see that it just, for me, I feel like fits really nicely. It has, final circumference. I got 31 inches about in circumference, and so that gives me about 1 inch of positive ease, so it's not like super loose fitting or anything, but I like this fit. I like how the shoulders fit here, and the sleeves. I followed the depth that the pattern states for the sleeves, and you can see right here, I hope the camera focuses, that really nice shaping and that detail, like I think it's called a contiguous kind of shoulder, because it looks a little bit like a what is it called, a saddle shoulder, but you actually just like keep knitting. You create this kind of like thing just as you're knitting the neck and the shoulders and the sleeve area, I guess. So it's a really nice, like non-complicated, I think, at least to me, knit and construction. It's really easy to work with and to do the shaping. The v-neck and all of the edging details are 1x1 rib, and it's also a knit bind off, so it has this really clean just like edging all throughout. And I really like the depth of this v-neck, because it is clearly a v-neck. It doesn't kind of just hit just like right under, I guess, where the collarbone is. I feel like sometimes that's too narrow for a v-neck, but I never want it to be so low that I feel like I'm gonna like expose everything if I like am moving around. And so I really do enjoy that. The one modification I made for this was to actually just lengthen the body by 1 inch. This was actually done on accident on my part. I just like kept knitting in the round on the body, and by the time I measured, I was like, oh, I'm 1 inch longer. But also that's fine with me, because I think it would have been a little too cropped for me, to be honest, if I stuck with the pattern measurement for the depth from under the arm. And so I'm really happy with the result. I'll stand up again to show you. This is with, again, 1 inch longer in length than the pattern states, and my belly button is right right at where my hem is. And so I feel like that's like perfect. I could even go maybe 1 more inch longer if I make another one in the future. So that is totally possible for me to do. I love the yarn choice for this. This is my first time knitting with the linen sock base, and because it's pretty new, I think that when I got this yarn, that was the first collection that Explore Knits did that had this yarn base. So it's my first time knitting with it. The knit with it was really smooth. I didn't feel like it was too linen-y feeling. Like, I didn't feel like there was too many like of the linen like plant kind of poking out, which is also totally fine. But that was something I didn't notice with this, and so it felt really smooth. Felt really soft, like really soft for any other kind of linen base that I've worked with. Although it is a combination, like it's not just linen, it's like linen and wool. But really enjoyed it. And then wearing it, I love the drape on this. It's super nice, super airy, really comfortable, not itchy at all. I think it's going to make a really comfortable fabric to wear during the warmer months. So it has gotten warmer here, and so when I did take finished object pictures of this, I was able to just wear it on its own without a jacket, but there's some parts of the day and also inside the house, especially like during the earlier parts of the day, it's just like, it's kind of cold. So that's why I'm wearing the cardigan. And just as a note, for the cardigan, if you're wondering which cardigan I am wearing, this is the Asopo cardigan by Sari Nordlund. Rerum, Natura, Gilliatt is the yarn I used, and those details are down below in the description. I've talked about it before, but just thought it'd be kind of a nice wear to wear over my tee for today. But yeah, the Avenue Tee by Tori, amazing pattern. I love test knitting for her. I love her patterns. I'm really excited to make more of these Avenue tees because I've seen other people's versions where obviously mine is a tonal color, but I've seen variegated colors of yarn being used for it, and it's so cute. And so this is one of those patterns where I'm like, I would love to have a tonal version, a variegated version, and because there's a crew neck version in the same pattern, I could have a tonal crew neck version and also a variegated crew neck version. So lots of options for this pattern. Very excited about it. It's a great staple piece. So yeah, I'm looking forward to wearing it a lot and making more of them in the future. All right, so that is what I'm wearing today. Let's move on to, well, I do have a finished object. I've kind of mentioned it briefly in my little summary before, but I finished a sewn garment. And I'm hanging it right here because I feel like for sewn things, actually maybe I should do this for a lot of my other knitted objects too. I put it on a hanger so it's easier to see. This is the Nepheline blouse by Vivian, Shao, Chen. And I believe that I started this last year, like maybe early last year. So it's been over a year, and I had all the pieces cut out and I actually started it. I did, I think, probably the more difficult parts of this last year. And then I just ran out of steam and did not touch it for like a whole year. So all I had to do this past week, well, I was like, oh, that's all I need to do. And then I started going and I was like, oh, this is like a lot of work. But I guess all I had left to do was to make and attach the sleeves on this, make the buttonholes and sew on the buttons. And I actually just sewn on the buttons right before filming this podcast because I was like, I just need to sew on the buttons. I'm going to do that. But here it is. It is finally done. I am very, very happy with the final result on this. I think that the design of this blouse, this top, is very cute and just like so flowy and like easy to wear. At least that's what I'm hoping it would be, and nice and breezy for the warmer months. I was going to say I knit. I made size 1. And the fabric I used is Liberty Fabrics. I've mentioned that before, or I've mentioned Liberty Fabrics in last week's video when I talked about some fabric I bought from Japan. No, this is not, I did not go crazy and start sewing with the fabric I got from Japan, but I had some other Liberty fabric. I think that I actually bought this fabric from Joann's sometime last year, or maybe even the year before that. I will hold it up so you can see. I really, really love the look of fabrics that have just like floral designs all over it. I think you would be able to tell the reason why I love this garment like design is because of the ruffles here. Or I don't know if they're called ruffles or they're called gathers. But I would say this was also the most painful part for me to sew on and to make. But I think worth it. There is another view on this pattern that does not have the ruffles. So if you like the look but not into the ruffles, there is a view where there are no ruffles or gathers at the neckline, but that is the reason why I like this. It flows out a lot. I don't know what is that A-line kind of shaping for this top, and so it's really nice and billowy at the bottom. These sleeves are like 3/4 sleeves, which is, I think at first I thought like that's annoying because then you'll be like cold or too warm. But I think with this really lightweight fabric, it's like just super nice to wear. There are some of these like pleats, 2 of them, I think that's what they're called, pleats, on the sleeve that I think just adds a really nice touch to it. And there are some gathers right here, right at the cuff here, which I think also adds a really nice touch. But any kind of gathering for sewing I find to be such a pain to do. It just takes so long, you know, but I think I did a pretty okay job on them. And even just like making these, like whenever I have to like sew in the sleeves, and there's, you know, you have to do like that shaping, like you do the it's kind of like you're doing gathers, but it's just to shape that sleeve cap kind of shape. I have one part where it's not that smooth, where I sewn it together to the body, but it's fine. I don't think anyone's going to notice it. But not too bad considering I have not sewn something for a very long time. This is actually the first time I used my sewing machine in this new place when we moved last year. So it's kind of nice to just like get the sewing machine out and start working on it. So yeah, I'm really happy that this is done finally. And then, there's also, it's all open in the front. And so there's just buttons that go down here to close that. But I think it's really cute. Maybe I'll wear it. I was like, if I run out of knitted things to wear during the podcast, I should wear some of my sewn garments, because I do have a few now that I could wear on the podcast, especially because, you know, it is, while this is primarily a yarn and knitting, spinning podcast, like, you know, sewing's also kind of crafting, and sometimes like matching up the sewn garments with some knitted things might be kind of fun too. But I'm very proud of myself that I got over that hump of just like finishing sewing that garment. I actually wanted to finish sewing that before my trip to Japan, because I wanted to get finished object pictures in Japan. I thought that'd be really cute, but it never happened, obviously. But right after coming back, I was like, gonna do it, because I bought more fabric and I have a fabric stash now that I need to get sewing so I can make all the pretty things that I want to make. But anyway, that's the Nepheline blouse. Very happy with it. I'm very happy that it is done. So I feel very accomplished, actually. But okay, let's move on to my whips and onto my knitted things. Although, okay, the first thing I want to talk about is not a knitted thing. It is a crocheted thing. This is my Bespoke cardigan by Nikki, who is stitch.story on Instagram. I didn't get as much progress on it as I did like the previous week, because because the previous week, or at least right now, this cardigan is knit like flat in pieces and will be sewn together. And so right now I have the 2 front panels done. It is a V-neck cardigan, and then I have the back panel done. And so now I'm working on one of the sleeves. I can show you what I have right now. The sleeve is also worked flat. It's actually worked like this, in this direction. This is my stitch marker from about where I was last week. And so I think I got a pretty, good amount done from last time, just not done yet with the first sleeve. And this sleeve will eventually be, it's this shape. Once I get more of it done, it will be kind of folded like this. Now it looks more like a sleeve, and it will be seamed all along. I assume what will be like the underarm, under part of the sleeve. And you can see there is like a sleeve cuff right here, and then the corresponding pattern. It looks short for a sleeve. I will kind of like maybe hold it up to my arm here. But I think that the rest of this cardigan is pretty drop shoulder. And so I think that that will help with that. And also after blocking, it does stretch out a little bit. So we'll see. I think probably what I should do is once I'm done with this first sleeve, I should block the rest of my pieces and just kind of like maybe not sew it together yet, but maybe kind of like hold it together with some stitch markers or something and just kind of like see where I'm at with length, because if it's too short, I will want to redo it before doing the second sleeve. So, but yeah, my first piece that I blocked was right on gauge, and so I'm not super concerned. But yeah, excited. I think if I continue working on this at the rate that I have been for this past week, I should be able to finish this sleeve, the first sleeve, at least the crocheting part of it. So yeah, that should be pretty good. I've really been enjoying crocheting lately. Again, I think I've mentioned because it is just like a different hand motion than knitting or spinning, and so it just kind of feels nice to switch it up a little bit. The size I'm making is size 1. I'm using a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again, is that I did have to size down my crochet hook because I'm a very loose crocheter. But I did get gauge, so should be good unless I tightened up a lot while making each of the next pieces, but we'll see. I will block this and check the measurements and all of that before continuing with the second sleeve. And then yarn I'm using is one of my favorite yarn, is the Rerum Natura Gilliat. Actually, it is the same yarn that this cardigan is in, just a different color. I absolutely love this yarn. I think they say it's a semi-woolen spun yarn, and so it has that light airiness to it, and it's like it's like rustic but soft, but rustic in the sense of, I think it's just that woolen spun kind of feel where it's it has that lots of kind of like fuzziness happening, but it's not itchy. To me, not itchy. Like, it's not the softest yarn. It's not like smooth, kind of not smooth in the sense of like a worsted spun like merino yarn, but it is like really nice and squishy and floofy, I guess is how I would say that. Love the yarn. And then the colorway is Cacao, which I also love. I do love a dark brown. So yeah, so that is the quick progress update on that project. Let's see, I have some progress done on this one this week. I didn't think I was going to work on this at all this week, but I kind of just felt the urge that I wanted to, and so I did. This is the Market Henley by Claire Jackson. The yarn I'm using is Explore Knits Earthy Sock in the colorway In Bloom. Really pretty color, especially for the spring season coming up. And is it spring already? It must be spring already. I'm just waiting for summer. And I am knitting size 36 inches. I believe that's like the second size, possibly, from the smallest. And I'm using US 5 needles, 3.75 millimeter needles. Yep, to knit this, at least for the body. Those are the body needles. And where I was last time, I was working on the sleeve. You can see right here, that's where I was last week. I kind of like just started the sleeve, and so you can see I've done a bit more, and I'm actually at the point where I think I'm ready to make the cuff. Now, I've heard that blocking on this grows a lot just because of this stitch pattern. This looks like it could be ready. I still need to, knit the cuff, which I think is about 1 inch. And so I think it could be ready to knit the cuff, which is super exciting, to like finish up a sleeve. But I am loving how this stitch patterns looking on this. It looks so comfortable and cozy and just like really nice, especially with this variegated yarn. I love that texture in this this colorway. And this is my first Claire Jackson perfectly knotted pattern. I don't know if I've mentioned that last time, but this is my first pattern that I'm making of hers, and I don't know why it's taking me this long to knit something of hers, but her pattern, if you haven't knit with any of her patterns before, the format of it is very interesting. I think this is might be the only designer that I've used a pattern that is formatted in this way, but I think it's really nice actually. There's like instructions, or there, for each like part of the instructions, there's kind of like fill in the blanks for, knit this many, like either this many stitches, this many rows, or for this amount of length. And then there's a chart or like a table, either on like the same page or kind of like the next page, that has for all of those numbers to fill in for each of the sizes. And then so that you can just write in your own one for your size. And I think that that's really clever, because especially if you knit a size that the numbers, when you usually follow in a pattern where it lists all of the numbers for each of those instructions, when it lists them all together, that you might, mistake which one it is. For this one, it's a lot easier to see in the chart or in the table which ones correspond to your size, and then you just write it into the pattern. And so when you're reading the pattern, you just get your numbers for your size. And so I thought that that was really clever. It did take me a little bit to just like get used to that format and just like follow along. But now that I have worked a little bit with it, it's super nice and feels, even though it does kind of require some work on like that front end part of like you having to look at the table and, write down your numbers. Once that's done, you just read the pattern as is, and it's normal, and it's great. So that was really exciting for me to, knit from a new designer. Yeah, and it's going great. It's going well. I really like how it's looking right now. And it's, I don't know, I'm very happy with it. I like using this yarn. This is the non-superwash fingering weight yarn from Explore Knits, and it feels really nice and soft, and I'm hoping that it will be nice and wearable and sturdy once it's done, which I'm pretty sure it will be. But yeah, it's going great. I want this to be done already because I love the color. I feel like it's perfect for the season and all of the beautiful flowers that are blooming right now. And I would love to wear it. Love to wear it soon, but I am, as you can see, I still need another sleeve. I need to finish the first sleeve, start and finish the second sleeve, and the body is very cropped right now, so I need to work a ton more on the body after. But it's been enjoyable to work on this as well. Fingering weight project. It is going a little slow, but I do love the feeling of a fingering weight sweater. Okay, let's put this here. Okay, next up is just a quick update on my April socks. And so I finished one side. Oops. I finished the first side. I mean, last time I was basically done. I think I just needed to graft together the toe stitches, and so that was very doable for me to finish that within the week. But now you can see the full one side of the sock. And yeah, I do really love the pattern on this. This is the Hibernal socks by Summer Lee. It took me so long for some reason to finally knit a Summer Lee sock pattern, and this year I've just been like knitting a whole bunch of her sock patterns. Actually, when I say a whole bunch, this might just be the second one that I've knit, but I've been loving them. Actually, I do have one comment about the patterns, but I'll get there. The yarn I'm using for this, my April socks, is Woolberry Fabrico Berry sock set in the colorway You're My Ticket, and that is the colorway for the variegated main skein of the sock set, and this was from the Downton Abbey collection, I believe. And I know that the green tonal, the mini, it did have a colorway name too, but it was not on the label, and I didn't want to go back. I would have to go back kind of far through her stuff to find the colorway, but it is just the dark green from that collection as well. So I finished that this past week, and then I got started on the second side because I want to get these socks done before the end of April. So I really pushed through this week, and look, the leg part of this sock is very, very long. But I mentioned this last week, but I want these to be kind of like a slouchier sock. And so I needed this to be a little long so that it would do that like scrunched up thing, you know, when you like put it on your leg and then you kind of like not fold it down, but you just push it down towards your ankle so it kind of like folds up. But then it's like nice and warm and cozy that way. So long. And it's actually, this is even half an inch shorter than pattern directions, just because I made a mistake. Not really a mistake, like it's fine, but the cuff here, the one by one rib cuff, is half an inch shorter than the pattern states, and that was just because I did not have a ruler when I was making the first side, but I just kept going, and it's fine. But yeah, so I started the second side. I think probably most of it done, right? Because this leg part is just so much longer than the rest of the sock. And then I did do the heel already, and now I'm working on doing the decreases for the gusset of the sock. And so I think I'm almost there. I can get this done probably this coming week, which would be great. Okay, one thing I did notice was, I don't know if you can tell, actually, yeah, when I hold it like this, I think you'll be able to see for some reason. So one of the changes I made was I did a tubular cast on for the cuff, because this is worked cuff down, but I must have made a mistake when I did the tubular cast on this first sock, because look how like jagged it looks compared to this one. This looks nice and smooth and even, and this one's all like looks super like worn out and stretched out. I must have missed something. I think what must have happened was, you know, if you've done a tubular cast on, you know how you have to do those first 2 rows after you cast on, you do those 2 setup rows. I think that I maybe missed the second setup row for this, and that's why it's all like loose and weird. But I'm not gonna go back and fix it, and I'm also not that worried about it, because again, these are going to be slouchy socks, and so I think that they'll just be scrunched up, and also like my leg is going to stretch this out like this anyway, so I'm not concerned. I just thought it was really funny. I was like, what the heck did I do differently with these cast-ons? And I think I just missed the setup row for the tubular cast-on that. But yeah, I definitely prefer a tubular cast-on or bind-off at the cuff of the sock. I think it looks the neatest and is still pretty stretchy to, you know, fit over your foot. So I do enjoy that. Okay, I was going to say, one thing I've noticed, I really have been enjoying the summerly sock patterns, and I want to make more. But one thing I've noticed that actually is not one of my favorite things of her patterns is that when you're working, I guess I've only worked the patterns that have the heel flap and gusset for the heel, where you do, you know, the heel flap part over here. One thing I noticed is that for her pattern, she does not state how many rows to knit the flap. She just says knit it until it's a certain length. And I don't really like that, because although the fix for this is very easy, but what I don't like about that is because there is a stitch count to pick up on the sides of that flap, right? When you pick up for the rest of your, I guess for the gusset part of the sock, when you pick up, there is a specific stitch count to pick up. And the way that it's always worked in other patterns for socks is that the amount of rows you knit will be such that when you pick up on each of the sides, you pick up in each, I guess this would be like a selvaged edge because you do a slip stitch on each side, but it corresponds. So when you're picking up your stitches over here, that it's one in every basically like knit stitch that there is, or an edge stitch that there is. Maybe you need to pick up on one in the corner just so that there's no like gap, but for the most part it corresponds with your stitch pickup, matches with the edge stitches for the flap. And so I find the instructions to just knit to a certain length kind of weird, because then what happens if there's too many stitches? Do you just skip it when you're picking up? Or if there's not enough, do you just pick up 2 in each, or 2 in some of the stitches? So what I've been doing is I look ahead in the instructions, and I look at how many stitches it says to pick up on the edge of the heel flap, and then I just make sure that then it's basically about, I do that number times 2, and then that's like how many total rows I need to have worked for the heel flap. I hope that makes sense. If not, and you're like curious, then just let me know in the comments if you were like, what the heck did you mean by that? But I feel like if you knit socks before, that maybe you'll understand what I mean. Yeah, that is my one thing that I've noticed about her pattern so far. But again, the fix for that to work for me is pretty easy, right? I just look up how many stitches I'm supposed to pick up after, and then I just correspond that to how many rows of this to make. So it's not too bad. It was just something I noticed and thought that I would also share with you, because maybe you've also felt that way. I hope I'm not the only one. But yeah. Okay, and then, is that it? Yes. I guess I could say one more thing about this pattern now that I've worked with this stitch pattern for quite a bit now, because I'm working on the second side of the sock. I enjoy this pattern. The stitch pattern is very, even though it looks, like cable-y and potentially maybe complicated, it's a really easy 4-round repeat. Oh my gosh, please focus, camera. It's a really intuitive, I think, repeat to, to memorize. And so I don't have to look at the pattern for this stitch pattern, and I always find that to be super nice. Especially when working on socks, when it should be not should be, but sometimes it's a nice, easy, go-to, quick, small project to carry along with you or to work on. Not saying, sometimes I love, a good all-over cable sock where I have to look at the pattern, but sometimes I want a sock where I don't have to look at the pattern all the time. So, yeah, this was great. It has enough pattern and texture to be interesting, but not so difficult that I can't work on it if I don't have the instructions right in front of me or the chart. Okay. I think I mentioned that I want these to be kind of a slouchy sock, and in the pattern it says if you want a slouchy sock feel, then just go up a size. And nothing about changing needle size or changing stitch count for the foot versus the leg. It's just go up a size. And I think part of the reason why maybe that works for this one is because there is a bit of stretch on this, because the stitch pattern on this does include kind of like a 2x1 rib in between those cable looking kind of columns. And so there is some stretch. And so even if it's a little bit bigger than your normal size around your foot, because there is that stretch, it will still be pretty snug versus it can stretch wider around your leg. But I think this might be my third. This is my third Summerly sock pattern, because the first one I knit, I forget the name of it, but it was my January socks. I remember now. Those were designed for sure to be a more kind of slouchy sock. And that one, it was knit the leg part with a larger needle size and then go down a needle size for the foot part so that the foot would fit how you like it. and then just the leg part would be looser. That's not the case for this pattern, but I think it's something you definitely could do with this pattern, or to even just like switch up the stitch count. I'm not sure, but in this pattern specifically, it is just same stitch count, same needle size for the foot and the leg. But yeah, just wanted to mention that, because there's different ways you can make a sock more slouchy, or more of a, that kind of slouchy, home comfortable feeling kind of sock. Okay, so I'm hoping to get that done this coming week. And then I only have one more knit thing, whip, to talk about, which feels kind of surprising. It feels like it was short this week. And this is my Salt and Timber Shawl by Lindsey Fowler. I didn't work on it too much, but I did make some progress, and I want to make sure I feel like I'm in that, kind of like in that shawl slump. At least for me, I never really get like sleeve island, second sock syndrome, is that what they call it? Where you just like slow down on when you have to work on sleeves, or, you get one side of a sock done and not the second. I never really had issues with that. But I feel like with shawls, especially if you have to do a lot of increases, like it's an increasing shawl, I sometimes just like slow down once it gets pretty big. And so I feel like I'm slowing down, to be honest, but I want to get a little bit done. So I'm holding it upside down, and now it's kind of getting squished on the needles. Not that I did any increases though on this, but I think it's supposed to be kind of like a half circle shape of a shawl. But I'm working on the part of the shawl, I guess if I'm holding it this way, it's supposed to look like trees. And so you can see there's like, I guess it kind of looks like arrows, right? Just like stacked on top of each other. And so I just did one. Each one is a pattern or like a chart repeat. And so I just did one more like chart repeat here. So like the second kind of like tree branches. And I'm hoping maybe it'd be kind of nice to get at least one of those done every week, just to get myself going. Yeah, I just wanted to show it to you all because I did work on it a bit. I am loving the color of this. Oh, speaking of color, so the yarn I'm using for this is Sewrella yarn, classic sock in the colorway Theater. I've had this yarn for a while, and the plan was always to use it for this shawl, and so it is exciting to get that going. Like, this is, a project that's on my needles, and this is a one size shawl, and I'm using US 6 needles, 4.0 millimeter needles to knit this, and it's great. It's going to be lovely. The stitch patterns on this are all, I think, really nice and going to turn out super nice. And yeah, I'm just kind of, I need to do, I think, maybe 4 more of these chart repeats to make those trees. And it's a lot of purling. I think that's kind of maybe what's getting me on this. Although, I'm working on some other things that involve lots of purling. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think it's just a shawl thing for me, but just wanted to show you progress. I am making progress on this, and that is making me happy. I'm actually still on my first ball of yarn, and I think that the pattern yardage, I didn't check my gauge, so I could be very, very off on gauge, and that's why I have a lot of yarn. But also it's hard to predict if there's more stitches I think there's probably more increases that need to happen. That always uses up a lot more yarn per row, right? But I'm still on my first ball of yarn. The yardage estimates for this was like basically 2 full skeins, I think, of fingering weight yarn. So I'm not worried about running out, which is great. Great place to feel or be for a knitting project. But yeah, this is the Salt and Timber Shawl. I'm also really happy to be using a pattern from a book that I own. I do want to mention, and maybe ask you all how you do this too. If you're knitting from a book, how do you read the instructions from the book? Do you always bring the book out when you're going to work on it? Or do you do what I do, or maybe something else? I take a picture of the pages so that I don't have to bring out the book every time I want to work on it. And then that way I can either look at the pattern on my phone or on my computer. And if I need to mark it up in any kind of way, then I can do it on the computer. I did try, I think, a couple, actually this Asopo cardigan, different book, but also a pattern in a book. I might have like tried to just knit from the book, but it was always kind of annoying to keep the book open and have space for it. And also sometimes it's kind of small, the text. And so if you take a picture of it, I can like zoom in on the text or the chart, and it's a lot easier to read. So that's what I do with book patterns, and I think sometimes I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose of having a book with the patterns in it. But I still kind of, I do like books, having physical books, and just like being able to like flip through it and have the physical, like I can hold it, and the pictures in them are really nice too. But anyway, yeah, what do you all do when you are knitting from a book pattern? Okay, and that is actually all of my whips this week. Well, it's most of them. I'll get into that in a little bit, but let's quickly move into my spinning projects before I talk about like my future plans for my knits. Real quick, I want to show you, I am basically done spinning my Hello Lavender Summer Bloom Rambouillet fiber. Woohoo! I finished applying. This was a very like, my favorite way to spin is a 2-ply fractal, and I split this fiber up like 2 and 4 for the fractal, and so this is like my full main skein right here, and I didn't have enough time to wind it off of this onto my Nitty Naughty, and then to like, you know, finish the yarn, like wash it and all of that and put it in a pretty skein. So I just decided to keep it on here for today's podcast on the bobbin, and then next week I can show you the finished skein. And then this smaller one is just the leftovers. Like once I finished one of my bobbins of singles, then this is also what I usually do for my 2-ply. Once I finish, once one of the bobbins runs out and I have one more bobbin with hopefully not that much left over, I will wind it up into a center pole ball. I just use my yarn winder for it, and then I will pull from the outside and the inside and do a 2-ply with my leftovers, and this will just turn into a mini skein of extras. But I will, if I'm going to use it in a project, I will always start with my big main skein first, and if I need some extras, then this will be what I pull from. But yeah, really pretty colors. I feel like applying them up like this, and at least doing it in a fractal spin like this, made the colors, just the overall color of this, be a lot more muted than it kind of looked in the braid. But I love it. It's just so interesting how it can look so different once it's spun up versus how it looked just in the fiber braid. And then also sometimes it looks different when you skein it up, and also even different from when you knit it up. So this is going to be really interesting to see how it knits up, although I have no knit plans for this, but I would really be happy to just kind of like build up my handspun stash right now, so that I have something to like pull from for projects if I want, versus feeling like I need to spin something right away to use it for something that I want. Yeah, I'm hoping this year I can kind of build up my handspun stash. Because it'll be fun also just to have like one of my shelves here. I mean, this top shelf that's kind of cut off has my handspun in there, but it's actually not that much. It's not a full, because it has my handspun and also some of my hand-dyed yarn up here. And it's not, basically, even though the camera's cutting off the top half, there's like, it's actually, that's all that's filled up basically. So I would love to have a bigger stash of my handspun, to be honest. But yeah, so that will be very happily sitting up here once it's done. But yeah, I will show you the finished skein of it next week. And then I am finally got back into working on my sweater spin. So this is now my second bobbin. Since I have my first bobbin right here, I can show it to you. Just like how much of a difference, or like where I am in progress, because this one should end up looking as full as this one when I'm done with the second one. But I'm getting there. This is like pretty good. I think this might be a little over 1 ounce of fiber so far, and so I did start this week. I'm feeling pretty good. It was really nice to have like 2 spin projects going on, like one with a dark yarn and one with a brighter, lighter kind of colors going on, so that was super fun. But yeah, I really want to like get going on this sweater spin because, well, one thing, the fiber, the way that I split it up to spin, it all kind of needs to be laid out. Like I can't just like throw them all into a basket. And so it's taking up, I have this one table in my room and it's taking up it took up the whole table. After I finished my first bobbin, now it's taking up like maybe 3/4 of the table, but it's taking up so much like table space in my room. And I want that table space back. And so that's kind of my motivator, to be honest, to get this kind of going a little bit quicker. So hopefully I can work on it a little bit more in the next coming months, because I think it'll still probably take me a couple months, but hoping not any longer. And then now that I am, again, my sweater spin is like my electric spin project. And since my ladybug is now free to work on another spin because I just finished my summer bloom spin, I'm hoping to start another spin project very soon, like maybe today or tomorrow. So it's kind of like going back and forth a lot on what I want to start next, but this will be a good transition into some future plans that I want to start. Okay, so I'm thinking about starting this for my next spin. This is the Little Fiber Co. Rambouillet. I've been spinning with Rambouillet a lot, so also maybe not spin with Rambouillet, because both of these spins that I just talked about are also Rambouillet. But I would like to start this soon because, 1, it's a really pretty color, and 2, one of my Make 9 for this year, knitting wise, is the Pressed Flowers Shawl, and I bought this fiber to spin for my contrast color for that shawl. And so this definitely needs to get spun this year if I want to accomplish my Make 9. And so I thought I should just kind of maybe start on it so that it's ready to go whenever I'm ready to cast on that shawl. And so that is an option. But other than that, it's like literally any of the other fiber that I want to start is an option for me. So we'll see. You'll probably see it next week. What I decide. So we'll see. But I do think that maybe that is going to be the one that I start very soon. Okay. Future plans for my knitting. I want to hold up some of this yarn because I did get into that test knit that I applied for last week. This is the Islander vest by Perfectly Knotted, Claire Jackson. And so I am, this is going to be my first time test knitting for her, and it feels perfect because I am knitting one of her patterns right now, the Market Henley, for the first time, and this will be my first time test knitting for her, and so that should be, I've heard really great things about her test knits and her patterns and all of that, and so this is really exciting. If you haven't seen, this is probably on, if you go to her Instagram, you'll see this pattern, but the Islander vest is as you can imagine, a vest pattern, but it's like a V-neck shape, and it has ties down the front. There might be like 2 or 3 maybe that you can tie into bows. And again, if you have watched me for some time, you'll know that I love bows. And so anything that kind of has like tied bows on it for knitwear. I love. And so I was very intrigued. I've been wanting to make some kind of vest that has ties like that in the front. And when that test knit call came out, I was like, oh, what a perfect opportunity for me to make a vest like that and also to test knit for Claire Jackson. So anyway, this is a yarn that I have decided to cast on for that test knit. We haven't gotten the pattern yet. So as you can see, I didn't wind it up. I didn't cast on yet. But yeah, I've been just kind of like looking through my stash for what yarn I'd want to use. It is a fingering weight pattern. And I thought that these would be some cute colors to knit it with. I was thinking I was leaning more towards maybe a tonal color versus like a variegated. But when I looked at these, I thought this would be great because it's like a tonal with just some speckles all throughout. And I feel like that would be, it's just like a great way to add some like interest to a tonal kind of like garment. The speckles are so small, it might be hard to see in the camera. I'm going to try and get this to focus on it. But this colorway is called Jade. And this is from Less Traveled Yarn. And I think I actually got this from one of my friends when we did like a yarn swap. But it is like a light green color, and the speckles on this, it's like a blue, some blue speckles, and then also some like dark purple speckles, which are less. There's definitely more of those blue speckles, but I think you can see those like darker purple speckles in there too. And I think it's gonna be really pretty. So should be fun. I'm excited to cast that on. I'm excited to use this yarn, and I just already have this feeling that might be another pattern where I'm like, I want to make another one in a different color of. So, yeah, I'm just overall really excited for the yarn, the pattern, the test knit experience, and all of that. So, yeah, so that is one of my future plans. And then I wanted to mention that I have potentially one of the reasons that I knit slightly less this week. Actually, there's a couple, but I am doing a secret test knit. It's kind of secret. I think it's secret for now. And so, but I did want to just mention it so that it doesn't come as like a super surprise. I think the last time I did a secret test knit, I didn't mention it at all until it was like out and released to the world. But I think it's okay for me to just say I'm working on a secret test knit. I'm not going to say anything about it besides that. But I am working on that. And so when I can talk about it, I will let you all know. But that is something that I am also currently working on. But yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to talk to you all about it. But yeah, so that has been taking up some of my knitting time, which you will not be able to see in my weekly podcasts. And for this one, I am not planning on doing what I did last time for one of my secret test knits, which was to like film every week, just like extra about it and just put it all together in one video. That was like a lot of work. So I'll just talk about it on a podcast after it's like released and out there to the world. But yeah, I did want to just mention that. And then yeah, to be honest, I feel like I don't think I have jet lag still from the Japan trip, but I think my sleep schedule has been really hard to get back into my normal schedule since the trip. So like I feel like the first week I just had jet lag. Like it actually was jet lag. I would just like be so sleepy, fall asleep, or like take a nap in the middle of the day or like a weird time and wake up and be so tired and just like, where am I? What time is it? I think I'm over that now, but I have lost a lot of this past week, basically, like I've done no morning knitting. And I usually do a lot of morning knitting time, especially on the weekends, and some of my like skating days off. I will also just knit for like 2 or 3 hours in the morning before work, because I'll wake up early to do that. And I've just been so tired that I just like sleep all the way until I just need to go straight to doing work. So yeah, I've lost a lot of morning knitting time as well. Makes me kind of sad, but I think it's important to sleep, to get what you need to rest and recover. So I've been trying to just like embrace that and not feel too sad about the less knitting time, because it'll come back. I'll get back into my schedule of waking up early to knit. But yeah, it's been hard. It's also been hard for me to get back into the ice skating in the mornings, to be honest. I've made my lessons. I definitely get up early to do that, but some of those other days where it's just practice days, some of those days I've decided to just stay home and sleep. So hoping I can recover again from, I feel like it's like recovering from the jet lag, recovering now. But yeah, I think that is all. It feels like this was such a quick episode. But sometimes it's good, you know? I would really love to start sewing a bit more. I don't think it has to be every week, but a bit more than just once a year. And so I'm hoping that my finished sewn garment this past week is like gonna motivate me to sew a lot more this year, just because I really honestly now do have a fabric stash, and it kind of makes me scared because now I have a yarn stash. I mean, I've always feel like I've had a yarn stash. That's the stash that I've had the longest. And then, you know, spinning happened, and so now I have fiber that's building up, and I can't also have a fabric stash. I don't want that to get too big either, especially because I don't sew that much, you know? So, but I have some beautiful fabrics that I would love to sew the things that I envisioned the fabric for. So yeah, that's kind of been where I'm thinking about going for the rest of this year. I'm not saying I'm going to knit less, even though that, you know, will take away a little bit of my knitting time. But I'm hoping that what would be really great is to like pair some of my sewing projects with my knit projects. I think that would be really cute and really fun. And so that's kind of like the goal of mine. Especially if it's like I have like, I don't know, I really like sewing dresses, or every time I see a dress pattern for like a sewing thing, I'm like, I love the dresses. And I just always envision a dress, like a sewn dress. Like, I'd be like, I made this dress, and I also made this cardigan that goes over it. Or like a skirt, a really long skirt that I could wear, like a sweater and a skirt, or maybe a sweater over a dress. Like, I feel like that's what I envision for myself. And so I'm hoping maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year that I could do that. But that is all I have for this week. It was a short video, but I feel really happy with my progress and felt really happy with all the things that I worked on. There were some projects, if you've noticed or if you remember, that I didn't work on this past week because I just need to focus on some of these other things. So yeah, that is it. I don't want to say bye. It feels weird. It just doesn't feel like I talked to you all for that long this week, but yeah. I do want to mention I plan on a video for next week. However, my weekend is like packed with stuff next weekend, and so I'm hoping that I can just film either Thursday or Friday this coming week, which might mean even less knitting updates, but I still want to get a video out for you all this weekend. So fingers crossed that I can do that for you all. But yeah, if for some reason something happens and I can't, and then there's no video, I do apologize, but that is my plan and my goal, to get a video out next weekend, because yeah, I think I'll probably start a new spin. Oh gosh, I know I have a lot of projects on my needles, but I would love to cast on something new pretty soon. Kind of need that. I need that new cast on excitement in my life, I feel like right now. So maybe that too. It probably should be a Make 9 project, because I may or may not be like right on, maybe like not on track already for my Make 9 for this year. But anyway, there's so many pretty things I want to make. But that is all I have to talk about with you all this week. I hope you all had a great week, and let me know in the comments down below what you've been working on. And yeah, it's just been a crazy past couple of weeks, I feel like, and feel like everything is going by so fast. So much things to do, so little time. But yeah, excited to just continue working on all the things that I love working on. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in next week's video. Bye!